You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
As always, thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan, on the Big Nate Sports Talk podcast. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all staying safe, having a great weekend so far. This is episode 15 of the podcast. And in this episode, we are previewing the conference finals championship round of the NFL. We're down to 4 teams. But before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. Episode 14 has already been recorded. These episodes will go up first thing tomorrow. Episode 14 was obviously Maryland women's basketball, where we talked about the loss to Michigan State and get ready for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Once these games are over, sometime probably Tuesday at the most, we will be recapping the games. Maryland men's basketball won today against Nebraska. Go Terps. And we're moving right along. So I have not at this moment picked an end date for season 18 right now. So probably with another week or two, we'll probably move on. But yeah, so let's get into it. As I said, this is the conference preview. This is conference finals. I cannot believe we got in here this fast. These 4 teams, I think for the most part, have proven their worth and why they have gotten this far. I expect these 2 games to be great. I do expect all 4 teams to bring it to the table. We're going to start with, obviously, the Lions versus the 49ers. I'm going to pick up the Detroit Lions to win this game, just based on a couple things. Their injury report, Debo's questionable, but most likely will play. James Mitchell, Jerry Jacobs, and Jonah Jackson are out. Khalif Raymond is questionable. Frank Ragnow is probable to play with the knee. San Francisco, I know they're dealing with, I think their backup, Dwelly, Ross DeLaley, Danny Gray, Clyde Farrell, they're out. So the reason why I'm picking Detroit to win this game is I didn't see enough from San Francisco in the Green Bay game. Now, San Francisco are heavy favorites to win the game. They found a way to win the game. And Brock Purdy, when it mattered, he did make plays. But how is it going to look against a team like this? Yes, they score about 30 points a game, 29 points to be exact. That's like 3rd in the league. You know, they're 2nd in total yards. Passing yards are 4th. I think they're 3rd in rushing. And still only managed to put up 24 points and allow Green Bay to put up 21 points. Their defense is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, they gave up less than about 17 points I think they're 8th in total yards. I think they're like 14th in passing, those different things like that. So I think for me, if Detroit does all the right things, especially starts with the offense, I'm curious to watch how their offense look in the first half. Because for some reason, I've noticed past couple games, they tend to struggle, and then they kind of pull themselves out the hole. Now, their offense is not going to be up to an easy task. We know this. They are going to have to give it their all. They're going out there, right? So I'm curious to see how they'll look on both sides of the ball. When you look at the last probably 13 games out of the 18 we've played so far, for San Francisco, they've held their opponents to 21 points or less. I know they're going to put immense pressure on Jared Goff, who I think has been stellar this year. Yes, he has known, he's known for kind of forcing errors of his own, such as check downs, takeaways, different things like that. But I'm curious to see how Ben Johnson will keep the play calling consistent. I probably will see them come out aggressive and then stay conservative as best as they can. But I think David Montgomery is going to be the key for me, the run game against their defense. You got to find some success with that. Establish the run early, and I think that will help with the passing. Now, for me, for San Francisco, I do expect them to, even if Debo doesn't play, their offense is still nothing to sneeze at. The only reason I feel for me, because it's not, I don't hate San Francisco. I just see all the momentum in right now. Like Detroit is playing with house money, and just watching how they've looked the last two games, and then seeing how kind of San Francisco's looked. I think for San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey, like if you watch the Green Bay game, there was no excuse why Christian McCaffrey, the play calling is going to be key for me, especially when in that second half, Christian McCaffrey didn't touch the ball. In the first half, didn't touch the ball. Kind of went from run game, stayed conservative. I don't think you should get too conservative against a defense like that. Aaron Glenn will have those guys ready, so I expect them to bring pressure, but also they're probably going to make them beat them passing the ball. So I will expect that, because you got to take something away from San Francisco. It's either going to run the ball or passing it. Outside of that, I'm really curious to see how their offensive line will look. I know they've been dealing with some injuries. Like I said, Jonah Jackson's not there because there were some guys who got hurt. He's one of the guys who got hurt in the Tampa Bay game. So I'm looking to see how they'll look. The run offense, they're for Detroit, they're 4th against their run defense, which is 15th. Jahmyr Gibbs has been tremendous along with David Montgomery. I know he's 8th in rushing yards. He's like 5th yards per carry, and he's like 3rd in rushing touchdowns. David Montgomery, I think who has been a great sign. It was a great signing for them. And they're both pass blockers. So, you look at the last 4 out of the last 5 games for San Fran, they've allowed at least 100 rushing yards. That's fine. But that running offense against that defense, I'm curious to see how it look. And the same thing, their passing. San Francisco's passing offense versus their pass defense. San Francisco's number 1, Detroit 16th. I think Brock Purdy is going to have to prove that he can. I think he's proven it. It's just on a consistent basis. It's maintaining the consistency. Yeah, the pass protection is great, but Brock has shown he struggles, especially getting rid of the ball quickly. And I don't consider him a check down quarterback. I mean, at times, I think that's more about Kyle. I think it's more Kyle Shanahan than anything. And again, when you do have Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, you should be a little bit more aggressive with the offense. So I'm curious to see how Aaron Glenn's defense will look. But their passing game, their pass defense, especially the secondary, pass versus secondary has improved, especially look at the last 6 games, look back at the tape. I think they've allowed less than 330 yards, I want to say, in passing, 12 touchdowns. They've had 19 sacks, and I think it was like 9 or 10 interceptions. So I'm not going to sneeze at that. So I'm curious to see how they'll look. But for the most part, I'm going to roll with the Detroit Lions. I'm going to say they're going to win. I'm saying they win by a field goal, 24-21.
Guaranteed.
I think if Detroit does all those things, I think establishes the run early. Their passing defense, I do expect them to take something away. I expect them to not to go at Brock. They're probably going to play more zone. Maybe you mixing in some blitz and for things like that. So, and then on San Francisco, I think it starts with I think it starts with the run game. I think get Christian McCaffrey going early, challenge that run defense, and also to challenge their passing defense. So, and mistake free. I think the limit of turnovers, because I think a couple turnovers can make a difference in the game. And also too, like, again, we know both teams they're here for a reason. They've proven their worth. So I'm curious to see how this game will look, but I think it's going to be a great game. I do. Before we get into the Ravens and Chiefs game, let's get into the sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast, and that is Zagnif Apparel. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to dress like you're already famous? You can and you will with Zagnif Apparel.
The following is a presentation of Zagnif Productions, LLC. Introducing Zagnif Apparel. Our comfortable line of leisure wear and athletic wear will have you comfortable and stylish at any occasion. Whether you're at the gym, out shopping, or just relaxing at home. Whether you're an athlete or just want to lay around the house, we've got the perfect outfit for you. Stop by our website today and pick up your favorite pieces. Zagnif Apparel. Dress like you're already famous.
You can and you will dress like you're already famous with a nice 15% off using my discount code BIGNATE off for 15% off your final purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, Zagnif Apparel is having a closeout sale. Their last day is the 31st of this month. Please check it out. Great apparel. You will dress like you're already famous. We'll be right back. And we're back, and I think the game of the night, I think, is the most anticipated one, and that is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is another chance meeting. I think this is kind of a full circle moment to kind of see where both teams are now. We know that Kansas City is arguably, they are the team that you have to get through to get to the championship. From where the Baltimore Ravens have been up until this year, I've seen progression, but I think in terms of coaching, I think in terms of player dynamics, those things, this season was different. when you look at how both teams look, I think this is the matchup we all expected. Like, we all know Patrick Mahomes. You know, he can scramble out the pocket. You know, they've not been the greatest passing team. We know this. And I think it's going to start with our defense. You know, Joe Tooney, I know, will not be playing. Kadarius Toney, I know, will not be playing. Isaiah Pacheco has been dealing with an ankle and toe injury. He is expected to play. I looked at that up on their injury report. They got some guys with some injuries. Sky Moore is out as well. So that offense, I'm curious to see how it'll look. Mike McDonald, for the most part, I think has been stout in his defensive play calling. He's going to have those guys ready. Outside of Travis Kelce, and others are going to have to make plays because, I mean, we can't rely on Patrick Mahomes to scramble to have production. No, I think that for me is watching their offense. I do expect us to go at them, be aggressive, but also too, like, when you're facing this defense that Baltimore's had this year, I think this is arguably one of the best defenses in the last couple of years. You know, the second lowest open score to receivers. Can't sneeze at that. The most sacks in the league, which is about 60. Got to be ready for that. And knowing Kansas City's defense, yes, they don't allow quarterbacks in the regular season to rushing touchdowns. They don't allow 26. That's nothing to sneeze at. I think that for me, it starts with our run game. I think it's going to start with how do we go at them with the run game. I expect Gus Edwards, Dalvin Cook, Justice Hill to continue their production. And with Mark Andrews back as well, I expect the passing game to be more open because that is his safety. He and Isaiah Likely have been Lamar's security blankets for most season up until Mark got hurt. The first half is going to be key for me. Watching how they played against Houston, I think Baltimore got a little too conservative. I think Baltimore tried to do a little too much, especially in that last drive where they took back-to-back sacks, had to punt the ball, and the score was 10-10. That can't happen. I think you got to figure out how you you can maintain the consistency, making the extra plays, the run game. I don't expect them to be, and also limiting the turnovers. I think, again, turnovers are going to be key in this one. I expect Nick Bolton, who's been their lead tackle this postseason, to go at they'll probably do what they did against Houston, put a spy on him, as be a spy on Lamar Jackson. We'll see. L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, outside of him and maybe Justin Reed, they're their best sack leaders. I mean, the Chiefs have had the worst so far this season turnover differential, and they forced 17 turnovers defensively, but like their offense turned the ball over 28 times. And I'm curious to see how that'll look. For Baltimore, it's a home game. The M&T Bank is going to be ready for this. The crowd's going to come out there. It's going to be energetic, and I think there's just so much on the line here. I think there's a reason why we've earned the number one seed. And yes, I think the Texans were, I don't want to say it was a cakewalk, but they made us work, and we did enough to win games. But other key, the offense. You guys understand the offense revolves around Lamar Jackson on the passing and running the ball. Understand that. But the others around him matter. I will keep stressing this. Outside of Lamar Jackson, others have to make plays. Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. I expect them to get to share some carries, especially the way those two have been playing. Justice Hill especially. I expect them to really get to contribute. Now you have, especially against Houston, Lamar spread the ball around. Zay Flowers, Rashard Bateman, likely, Nelson Aguilar. They all have 3 more targets. Now, top that with Mark Andrews, as I said, that's going to be interesting. He said how the offense will look. If Baltimore does all the right things, they come out aggressive, go at Mahomes, take away the run game. I think also too, it's going to be curious to see how the injuries will look, because like I said, those guys are going to be out. There's a couple other guys that I still think are questionable to play. I believe they're Derek Nakandi. There's a defensive tackle. He said they're questionable. He's questionable to play. There's somebody else on their side I think that's questionable to play. I cannot remember. We had like 4 or 5 guys. I think Willie Gay's questionable. Willie Gay, yes, it was. He's questionable to play. But they did say more than likely their defensive tackle, Derek Nandi, that's his name, will most likely play. But I'm curious to see how that will look. Rocky Sin also for Baltimore will also be playing. So that will help. But and also too, I think as the game progresses, I think this game I think means a lot for us, because I think of the whole year of the criticisms against the Ravens, especially with Lamar. I feel like this is where I think your money's made. I think this is where officially, up until whatever happens tomorrow, if Baltimore wins this game, I think that silences some of the critics, but I know it won't. But I expect it to be a competitive game. I know Kansas City's going to make us work for it. With Marlon Humphrey back, Mark Andrews back, Rocky Sin back, this is still a Kansas City Chiefs team you have to respect. Yes, they're struggling. Still have Patrick Mahomes. How do you, if you're Mike McDonald, how do you challenge that? Especially, they won, with the run, especially they're like they run that 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, 1 wide receiver, and they average almost 9 yards when they played Buffalo. How are we going to look against that? Defense, that's going to be key to defense. And again, if you're Baltimore, the matchups, I probably would expect Kyle Hamilton to be on Travis Kelce. I expect Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, and those guys to be ready. Justin Madubuike. This is going to be interesting. The matchups are going to be really interesting. Ronnie Stanley, Morgan Moses, who's going to on the first line against Chris Jones. But I mean, for the most part, and then also to George Kalafis. I mean, Morgan, both of them did pretty well against Houston. But the Kansas City Chiefs were second in defense and yardage for a reason, because of their front 4. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be most interesting. But I'm going to say the Baltimore Ravens beat the Kansas City Chiefs 31-7.
The following is a presentation.
Oops, wrong one.
Guaranteed.
I see a score like that. It's just going to be interesting to see how the first half for Baltimore looks for me. If they do all the right things and they maintain consistency and they stay aggressive, keep mistake free, and keep Patrick Mahomes of the offense off the field as much as possible, I think Baltimore will win. It's a home game. You're playing in front of family, friends, and it gives you extra confidence and knowing just the energy. We've been waiting for this moment. So let's get into one final thought of the podcast.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
Okay, so my understanding is that we have the referee Sean Smith. Um, his officiating crew has the third most flags thrown in the league. They almost average about 15 flags a game. Um, he's very interesting with his play calling. But I'm also going to say this too. Every officiating crew is different. I've said this if you watch me when I talk with basketball, every officiating crew is different. I think we know what we have to do. They're going to try to get certain calls their way, and we have to watch for it. Most teams do it. Do I like the fact that they got this one? No, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's an all-star crew. So it's going to be interesting to see how they look. But I'm not worried. And I can see and feel the nerves, but I'm pretty calm about tomorrow. I'm super stoked. So also too, I do think that it has been interesting the whole week, listening to what some guys have had to say on national TV, especially again because I watch and listen to certain shows, and one show said it's a season of failure if Lamar Jackson loses, and I don't like that. Why does it just have to be the quarterback? Why not the team? You know what I'm saying? Like, Brock Purdy doesn't get a headline like that. Patrick Mahomes, respectfully, will never get a headline like that. It's just interesting to just see how the national media kind of takes players, it just puts narratives like that on them. And I've tried to make this argument quite a few times, and it just proves the point of just how the media is towards certain players. And unfortunately, it sucks. I just think for going out there and winning, yes, it matters, but for someone's always going to criticize, and I think it's sad personally. But whatever happens, it's going to be a great game. I'm super stoked. I'm proud of this team. Nothing will change, whatever happens. But I do expect us to go out there and win the game. I do expect that. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in this episode. And also, too, I want to also make this one final point. When we played the Detroit Lions, did no one look at their injury report that week, the regular season game? Detroit had a damn near laundry list of starters on their injury report. David Montgomery, I remember correctly, I don't believe played, and their defense lacked some guys, so they're playing second and third stringers in there. People forgot that, but that's just something I wanted to say because it made it seem like this is the same Detroit team now that lost to Baltimore. No, that Detroit team that week had a mire of injuries. Anywho, that's going to conclude this episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.
Your next stop is your success. And clear negative odds, please.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the next big thing, the next up-and-coming sports journalist, Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
I wanna thank you, yeah. I wanna thank you. Ooh. For all the times you put up with me. Thank you. And you helped me retain my sanity. Thank you. I wanna thank you. And I wanna thank you. All I wanna do is say thank you for everything you do.